I like boring stuff, but I'm getting old. I'm 23 at the moment, so I think it's time to do something crazy. And there's this buzzword called serverless. I wanted to know about something about it. Of course, I wanted to connect it with Ruby, and I would like to talk about it. And what is serverless? Our architecture on our service providers evolved from like infrastructure as a service, which is something like EC2. We just care about operation system. We care about scaling here. Then we got container as a service like ECS. So we are scaling our containers. Then we have platform as a service like Heroku, which is scaled on the application level. And now we have something called serverless, which is function as a service, and it's scaled on function level. So we have like one application and we have many functions which we scale, or we don't scale them because it's serverless. We don't care about servers. So this is operational cost because you don't have to set up servers. You don't need DevOps. You just put code on the platform and it's running. You don't care about anything. It offers great scalability because you don't have to care about servers. It's everything up to your provider. So you can scale to the limits of the Amazon. So it will be pretty much a lot. And I think it encourages good code because, if your code is better, it's faster, you will pay less. And it's pretty hard to do like big coupled code. So it looks better. So demo, of course, it will be live demo because I don't want to be boring anymore.
What can go wrong?
Yeah, of course. Like I cannot handle it. So here we have, after deployment, I created two functions. It's application to take care about bills that I bought yesterday or just during the event. So it offers two functionalities. Okay. First one is creating new bill like this. We have, it worked. So I added it. It responded me with new created object. And the list works too. And time to see some code. It's just one function, so we can treat it as one file of Ruby. It's like Raceway, few lines, it's created, everything works. List is pretty simple too, but this everything is big lie because serverless providers don't support Ruby still. And so these are the supported languages. Ruby is not supported, and that's the problem. But we are a community, so we can work on it. So there is a petition. We want function as a service for Ruby. There are already like 700 developers signed, and if you'd like to join, if you're interested, just go to serverlessruby.org and sign petition with your GitHub account. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ruby on $4 computer.
Okay, my name is Sergey Silnov. Normally I develop backends with Ruby and other languages, but it's during the days when dark is coming, I grab microcontrollers and start to write ugly C code. And today I want to say a couple words about how to run Ruby on Cup of Coffee. Cup of Coffee is this really small microcontroller inside this model, It's ESP32 by Chinese Espressif. On this model, there is also 4 megabytes of storage, and this microcontroller have on board 2 cores of two extensor cores. It's like ARM, but not ARM. Just half megabyte of RAM. It's pretty low for Ruby, and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. That's enough for us. Also, all normal wires for microcontrollers, SPI, I2C, and so on. So this model itself costs only $4, but if you want to tinker with it, it's better to find some development board. There are a lot of them with battery chargers, with screens up to $10. You can just go to eBay and search for ESP32. You'll find a lot of them. So to start tinker with it, first you have to install ESP-IDF. It's an official toolkit based on FreeRTOS, real-time operating system. This side, Espressif is Chinese company, but they have really great documentation. Maybe this is the only Chinese company with perfect docs. It's hard to believe. So what I found a few days ago, it's a project mruby for ESP32. mruby is another Ruby interpreter written by Mats, but it's small and embeddable, and it's possible to embed in such a small device like this microcontroller. So, for example, if to this microcontroller, there is also connected BME 280 environment sensor. It measures temperature, humidity, and pressure. So basic sketch how to work with it. We just include library in its sensor and then read measurements. So we do it in loop, and after each measurement, sleep for 10 seconds. So. But this microcontroller also have Wi-Fi on board, so we can connect to Wi-Fi, and if we will measure free RAM after connecting to Wi-Fi, it will be still 150 kilobytes. Not bad. Now we want to send some data from this device to cloud to make some measurements. I used ThinkSpeak. ThinkSpeak is a public service where you can store some data, and because we don't have normal HTTP library, we have only some TCP library for written in Ruby for this microcontroller that may work. So you have to write a request by yourself, but it's possible to send data with one head requests and go on. So I think it's, if you want to find full code, it's available on this link. I think small demo time. I will restart my controller. Now it connects to Wi-Fi and send data. Okay, if we'll take a look on how it looks. Okay. It's pretty clear that it's pretty hot here right now. 26 degrees, I believe. Our hearts are really hot, and we are really dry. We have really dry minds and make smart decisions. So, is it good? To be clear, no. When I finished with this simple example, don't ask me about TLS. It's possible on this microcontroller. It has Thank you.
Okay. From Wrocław RB to DDD.
1, 2, 3. Okay, thanks. Hello, Wrocław RB. My name is Adam, and I wanted to share with you a quick case study about how Wrocław RB impacts developers and also companies. In general, I didn't meant to give a lightning talk today, but yesterday I spoke to Andrzej, and he said that maybe it's worth to share this this story with you today. And we all know that everything Andrzej says is valuable. Maybe not everything, but at least we can take it into consideration. So, what is the case? The case is that it is my third Wrocław RB conference, and 2 years ago, well, I wasn't such experienced developer like now, so I was really amazed about everything that I heard, all these concepts, patterns like DDD, CQRS, Saga patterns, etc. And I was so surprised, amazed, and actually impressed that after the conference I decided to dig deeper this topic, and I wanted to use it actually in work. And recently, after the conference, in the new project, after reading some blogs, of course, blog posts, articles, books, watching some presentations, I decided to do DDD stuff in a new project. And from perspective of time, I need to say that it was kind of risky decision because no one at the company had before experience with DDD, so it was risky. But actually, thanks to for instance blog posts from Arkansas and the Rails Event Store Jam, we were able to succeed. And actually it worked pretty well, and we gained a lot of things out of the box, like for example activity audit trail log from Event Store. So the thing is that we need to be we need to have courage, I think, and Wrocław RB, thanks for this inspiration, and I'm looking for next inspiration after this particular conference. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Refine or not to refine?
So, my lightning talk is devoted to refinements, and it was, I was triggered by Nick, who told no one uses refinement. And actually, it's not the first time Nick is discussing this thing. Well, there's an interesting discussion on Twitter. No one uses refinements, but we already know that some of you use it. And me personally, use it pretty often. Almost every jam I'm working on, use a couple of refinements. And here I'd like to tell you a little bit about the story of refinements, some interesting facts probably no one knows, and some use cases and some problems with them. So in order to help you to define whether you want to use refinement or not. So the history. And the problem, actually, the first problem. Refinements were introduced in Ruby 2.0.0, and they were tagged as experimental feature, and that was make them less acceptable, because who want to use experimental feature in their software? No one, because what happened when it disappeared, for example, in the future. But since 2.1, it wasn't experimental anymore. So it became a part of the language, but people still don't use it, still afraid of it. Because actually from 2.0 to 2.1, there were a lot of problems with them. That's why it was marked as experimental. There were bugs, and there are still some of them, actually, for some very, very sophisticated use cases. And 2 years ago, I had a chance to interview Kira Matsuda, a Ruby core team member. And there were some interesting facts about refinements. First of all, do you know who's the author of refinements? Unfortunately, I don't know his name, because it's really hard to understand this Japanese name, sorry. But that was Matt's boss from his previous, I guess, employer. No idea why did he need this feature, but initially refinements were more powerful, but due to JRuby and the complexity of support refinements for JRuby, most of the features were cut. And I guess that's the reason why there are some bugs left related to those features. And if you know who's Koichi Sasada, he's working on Guilds, also a Ruby core team member, and they offer incremental generator garbage collector from 2.3. So he's one person who wants to get rid of refinements. So actually, even if this feature is not experimental, maybe we won't have them in Ruby 3, but no one knows. So let me tell about examples when it's okay to use refinements, when I think it's a really good tool. You can check Akira's gems. He's also the only person I know who actively uses refinements, and in some of his gems. So actually, you can find refinements even in such gems like SQL. It has a refinement mode instead of monkey patching. I don't know whether anyone uses it. And we even had refinements in Rails, thanks to Akira again. But as for, I don't know, Rails 5 something, this patch was rolled back due to some problems with refinements, unfortunately. I'll come back to this case in the end of the talk. So use cases, just a few examples, mostly from my own gems, so it would be easy for me to explain why I decided to use example. So the first case is dependency reduction. I was working on a gem called I don't know, Anyway Config, I think. So, and initially, as always, it has active support as dependencies. There was a lot of code which relies on core extensions from active support. In order to not rewrite everything, I just added refinement, which emulates the active support behavior. And with just adding one line of code, I now have a gem with 0 dependencies, still working with the same syntax as before. That's the first case, when we want to remove something which were broken. Another use case, pretty new one, as I call it modernization. I want to use new Ruby features, but as a gem author, I don't want to restrict a Ruby version to use with my gem. So I like to use a new feature in Ruby 2.5 called thread fetch, but it only exists in Ruby 2.5. So I'm using refinement, and I think later in a couple of years I just remove this refinement and can rely on Ruby itself, but without modifying my code. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think tomorrow there will be the second part of this lightning talk, which is not so light.
Who's next?
Sorry.
Methods at... Okay.
Okay. Hi, I'm Michał. As like everyone here is a developer, and as a developer, we like to outcode, write code, and solve problems. But of course, I like that too. But what I love is when you can remove code. So if you have a very complex project, and you have some legacy code that is used like in one part of the application, and you cannot really remove it. And finally, like you refactor it a little bit, and you get the green light, and okay, we can remove it. So I love it. Like it's a great feeling. Like anybody share this feeling? Yeah, great. But it's like there is a problem with it. Usually, when we remove code, if you do is just go to your classes and just delete it. It's very easy to like leave something, and later on, like it will like surface like a year later or something like that. So I want to share a few tips like how to remove like everything completely, like 100%, and we can use computer science for this. So if you look at your classes or your code, this is basically like there are like interactions. So this is like a graphs. So whenever like one class is using another one, there is like a connection, like a edge between one node to the other node, and it's like the same with methods. So one method calls another. This is like the connection in graph, and we have like two methods for traversing graphs, like depth first search and breadth first search. So the depth first search is like going like one way until like it's have nothing else to go, and you need to go back and choose another way. And with breadth first search, you like exploring like the nearest like edges. When everything is done, you go further. So I prefer like the breadth first search. So you can apply the same for removing code. You don't have like any data structure for that. You can have like the notebook or like a file. You need to just start from the top, from like your top level class or endpoint. You write like what you need to remove at the top, because like the breadth first search is using a queue. So you add at the end, you move it from the top. So in case of notebooks, you need to reverse it. So you like add your like first class at the top, look like everything what it's using, every method and other classes. You write it below. When you clear it out, you just cross it out and you go next, and you repeat the same process. And yeah, after it's done, you completed everything. But one couple of more things that you need to be aware is like there is like translations. So whenever you see like the file and you're removing it and you see like translation, you should also add it to your like notes or your file, and come back to it later. CSS. So usually if you're removing views, you should. Oh no, this is JavaScript, I think. So the classes, CSS classes that are used as the for binding events. So you can also put it in the notebook and then look for it like in JavaScript, and you can also remove that. And the last thing is like the CSS. So like you should put everything in this node, and cross it out and take the next thing and look for dependencies, add it to the bottom until you like remove everything. Thanks.
So, hi, my name is Artur Roszczyk, and why do we love Ruby? Yeah, first of all, of course, because maths is nice, and another thing is that unlike Python developers, we are more creative and we like to argue how to approach certain problems. So, in the old good times, we just used to write Ruby like that, right? We used maps sometimes because we tend to be functional, but then actually Elixir came around, and whoops, we've got pipe, and everybody loved pipe. And actually after that, basically Ruby usage dropped. This is at least what I heard, and Ruby tried to catch up. Ruby tried to catch up, so we tried to do referencing methods. We tried to and Ruby 2.5 introduced this yield self, which tries to be the new pipe for Ruby. So yeah, but it's not everything. There is a missing piece. So first I found like Michał Słomnicki post introducing yield, and there was the reference to Ruby tracker issue, talking about referencing methods. So people came with a lot of like ideas introducing new syntax in Ruby to reference methods in a nice way, because yeah, calling a method and then brackets, passing a symbol, it's just not nice. So yeah, one of the ideas was mine. The last one, actually, it was pretty ugly. But then this guy Siben came and he showed that actually we can implement something pretty nice using current Ruby. But you know, it's all about execution. So I took the liberty to execute, and we have the missing piece. So basically, this is the way. Actually, you saw it also on Nick's slides today. Yeah. We can reference Ruby methods like that, but with small Ruby gem, we can reference methods in that way. And what actually this looks like a cosmetic change, but actually this also gives you like some other nice features. So for example, you can have as a bonus a parameter, like pre-applying parameters on a method. And also, yeah, why I would do that, like for example, you can reference a private method which wraps around an object which you fetch from API. And yeah, there are other features, like actually you can carry blocks as well. I'm not sure why would you do that, but maybe you can come up with some nicer APIs for some stuff. Yeah, and this is actually reimplementation of an example from Michal's post, where you just pass method references in that way. I mean, it's not perfect, like, you know, we can't be Elixir, but it's something, right? And so what features we have? We have referencing public methods of other objects, and we have referencing private methods of self. So if you actually, with the default method implementation of Ruby, you can actually reference private method of another object. This is not good, right? We are not like Python. So actually, we prevent that. I prevent that with this gem, so you cannot reference. You have argument carrying, keyword argument carrying, blocks carrying, yeah, just things, and referencing instance methods in case you would like that. How do you download it? Yeah, just gem install methods. Thank you.
Thanks.
Shall this work? Oh, right. Okay, let's say I'm ready, but I don't know if I'll be in time. My name is Maciek, and I wanted to share with you some of my thoughts about two questions. The first question is what it means to be a developer, and the second question is will computers replace us? Okay, so first of all, a show of hands. Who in the room is a programmer? Nice one. And who is a developer? And third question, what is the difference? And I think that it's not that important, but to me, the thing is that a programmer is a person who works with code, while developer is someone who works with problems and develops some solutions to those problems. So writing code is a part of the job of a developer. Most of developers are programmers, but not all of them. So there are two parts that I like to think, like this duality in developer work, which is there is a part related to business, to the problems that we are solving, and there is this other part that is related to code. And we, as developers, must be fluent in two languages. So we need to speak the language of code, and we need to speak the language of the client. And this second part is something that more often than not gets forgotten, or maybe doesn't get enough attention. So, and second thing that really opened my eyes is that we are also building mental models. So when I work as a programmer, as a developer, when I work with a client, then I flex my mind and try to understand, build a model of the problem that I'm trying to solve. And on the other hand, I have some mental model of a solution. And both of these are really difficult to express, and to work efficiently, I need to understand both of these domains and be able to connect them quickly. Okay, and what I wanted to say is that we use this language that I talked about, the language of code and the language of business, to express these two models. And these models are really strongly dependent on the language we use. And if they are far from each other, so we use a different language in the system, in the code, than the language that we use when talking to the client, or the language client uses when talking to us, then we have problems. Because we use a CRUD terminology, we say that we are creating something, or removing, or updating, or deleting, and the client says, okay, so I place an order, or I don't know, prepare a shipment. And if these are not represented in our code base, then we need to sit in front of this code and think a lot about what is what in these terms. And I think that the language is this important part, and we have heard about it today, because DDD nails this perfectly. And when we are doing DDD, we are trying to get these languages and get these two models as close to each other as is possible, so that it's easy to work, easy to relate them, easy to connect. And when does AI come in? There is this duality that makes the part of developers' work in understanding what people need and understanding how to solve it, how to teach a computer to do it. And the second part is something that computers are much better than us. So this is the place where we can get replaced, and we actually are getting replaced constantly, because we are not working with punch cards or machine code or anything. We are writing in Ruby, not in C++, and this is something we know about. So computers replace us at this low-level work, but it would be really hard for them to replace us at the high level, at the level of contact with the client. So I want you to use your imagination and just think about these event storming sessions, and imagine an AI, really advanced AI, trying to participate in this session. Getting these postcards, putting them on the wall, walking among people, listening in what they talk about, and all of the other stuff. And I think that it's impossible, because the AI would not be able to empathize with these people, with clients, with business, and business would not empathize with AI. And I think that it's not impossible for computers to achieve this ability of understanding people's needs, people's emotions. But if it happens, job security will be our lowest problem. Just to conclude, my prediction is that not much will change. So the software will... thanks a lot.